There's a lot that goes into screen printing a shirt, so I kind of wanted to show you guys what that looks like here. We're putting emulsion into the scoop. It's a photopolymer emulsion. Taking the screens out of the drying cabinet. Here we are using the scoop to apply the emulsion to the screen. We coat it on both sides. We always coat the bottom side first, and then we coat the top side of the screen. And we put it back into the drying cabinet. Drying cabinet is set to 105 degrees, and that will cure that emulsion. The emulsion is definitely a little bit messy, but we want to save every single bit that we can so that we could coat more screens in the future. We typically coat 10 screens at a time because that's how many screens fit inside of our drying cabinet. There we are, just putting it into water solution. And this is what makes screen printing work. This is a transparency sheet in black. This is a very simple one color screen print job. And here we are using this template to line up the screen, and then I carefully place the screen on top of it. This is how we make sure the screens are nice and straight. Then I slide out this little template here. And this is our exposure unit. This is going to, first of all, it's a vacuum seal. So there's a rubber membrane, and that vacuum is going to suck out all of the air. And what that's going to do, it's going to block out all of the light. So there's no possibility of extra light getting in on the screen. The only light that's being hit is this UV light. The UV light cannot pass through the black ink of the transparency, so it hardens all of the emulsion around the graphic itself. So now we take this out, and we're going to take it out over to our washout booth. I made this double washout booth out of 2 shower bottoms. And all we do is we just wash it out with a garden hose with just plain water. Get it wet on both sides. And you can see here how that emulsion just kind of washes away. And that's what allows the ink to pass through on that. This is just a simple one color screen print design, one color on the back, one color on the front. Imagine if this was a 6 screen job, all of the work that goes into making that happen. We put it up with a light just to make sure that we got everything washed out. We like to set them outside because, again, these are UV cured. When you put them outside, it dries them very quickly, but also the sun helps harden that emulsion. We use a double-sided tape, pallet tape, to keep our shirts sticky, keep the shirts from moving while they're on the pallet. So I'm removing the old double-sided tape and adding some new on there with a squeegee. We have 8 pallets on our machine, so whenever we switch this out, we have to do this 8 times. We try to be careful not to add any air bubbles to the pallet tape. Now we just kind of cut off the excess. And then it's just a matter of peeling off that backing layer, and you have a nice adhesive sticky surface. This is a grid transparency that we use to make sure that our transparencies are perfectly straight on the palette so that we line up the graphics properly. So we use that same transparency sheet that we use to burn the screen, and we use those registration marks to line up on the grid to make sure it's nice and straight. You can see we have the front screen and we have the back screen all taped off. Didn't show that process. And so here, this is where we actually line up the screen with the registration marks on the transparency itself. So you can see how those registration marks, those little bullseyes, really come in handy. And then I just double check the design to make sure you don't see any white around it. That means it's perfectly lined up. This is especially important for a multi-color design. It's a lot easier for a one-color job. Now, if we don't tape off the registration marks in the screen, you'll see them on the shirt. So you can see here we have to add a little 2-inch masking tape to cover those up. We got to do that on the top, and we also do that on the bottom. Here we are adding the scoop. This is what scoops the ink and spreads it across the screen. And there's the squeegee. We use white ink in the shop a lot, so we don't typically clean off the white ink off the scoop and the squeegee as much. Our previous job also had white ink, so we are scraping the white ink off of that screen and adding it to this one. And then this screen will get cleaned and reprocessed. You can see here we had to buy a new bucket of white ink. It's $147 for a gallon of white ink. Quite expensive, but our supplier is TechSource Supply out of Kings Mountain, and they will actually ship it to us and have it to us next day, which is great. And here we are just putting the shirts onto the palette, and then I hit the pedal on the bottom and it rotates the arms and processes the next screen, so the next shirt. And here we just put this on the conveyor dryer. And you can see at the end of the conveyor dryer, the shirts fall into a basket. The shirts have to reach 320 degrees in order for that ink to cure. So the conveyor dryer actually goes up to 600 degrees. It's 3-phase power. And that's how we cure our shirts. Here we are doing the front side of the shirts. And that's really all there is to it. If you would like a quote for shirts for your organization, please reach out to us. Thank you.